Hello and welcome to another solo episode on Astro Bloom Podcast. I'm your host, Vanya Banks, spiritual astrologer and healing guide. So I hope you've been having a good summer so far. We're coming off of the full moon in Capricorn that we just had earlier this week, and it was definitely one that I felt quite intensely myself, having some strong placements in both Capricorn, Cancer, and Libra. This really activated my T square, and I got a lot of realizations, illuminations around, my work-life balance, really the fact that maybe I hadn't been taking care of myself in the way that I normally would, since I sort of went full time with Astro Bloom. So a lot of rebalancing of the scales needed on my end. So yeah, let me know how that full moon was for you, what's been coming up. Reach out to connect on Instagram, all the things. I'd love to hear from you. So today we're actually going to be talking about a practice that's very near and dear to my heart, called astrocartography or astrogeography. So I'm going to break it down for you and really illustrate to you why this is such an amazing kind of a layer to add on to regular astrology, and how it can really help you get deeper into your energetic signature and really be able to unearth some of the energies that are in your birth chart that might be really subconscious, or living in that subconscious realm that your soul is asking you to integrate. So, first of all, what is astrocartography? Astrocartography is really, it's the use of astrology to tell you about the energy of a certain place on Earth, but the energy of this place is specific to you, because what we do in astrocartography is, so in regular astrology, first of all, when you are born, we take a snapshot of the sky the moment you are born from the location where you are born. And this is called your birth chart. So we can draw up a birth chart for any moment in time. And in the birth chart, the location is static because it's in that location where you were born, or where we are pulling the chart for. However, if we were to take you and relocate you to another location on the Earth, the sun, the moon, all of the different planets would have been either rising or culminating or ascending, descending. They would have been in a different location from our perspective on Earth. So astrology is Earth-centric. Even though we know that the sun and moon and all of the other planets that the moon and all of the other planets rotate around the sun, including us here on Earth, in astrology, we're actually looking at the planets and the sun and moon as they move from our perspective on Earth. So if you are, as we know with time zones, if you are living on the continent of North America, let's say in the Eastern Standard Time Zone, we know that here, as the sun is, at midday, if you are in Europe, for example, the sun might already be setting because they're 6 hours ahead. So the different geographic perspective really allows us to understand how this energy is going to move throughout your chart. So your birth chart doesn't change per se. It just evolves. Your experience of it evolves in different locations. So why would you care about this? Why is this important? Well, there's a few different reasons. So first of all, your birth chart is, like I said, it's static. It's your inherent signature. It holds all the codes of things that you need to learn in this life, the things you're good at, the things that are challenging for you, and your soul lessons and your soul purpose. And the way that we get to experience and unearth some of the more maybe hidden energies in our charts. So what I mean by hidden is there are certain planets that represent archetypes, different energies that might stay sort of more in our subconscious, depending on where they are in our charts. So what this really means is that oftentimes when a planet or a planet's archetype is really subconscious within us, we might sort of run on autopilot. We might really live from that more shadowed energy of the planet. So let's take Mars, for example. Mars, its shadow aspects can be, being quite maybe argumentative, being really living from that like wounded masculine energy of like feeling like you have to fight to survive, like feeling like you're completely on your own and that no one is here to help you and you have to be hyper independent to, succeed, to get things done in this world. And so if Mars is a shadowed planet in your chart, you might subconsciously be living from this energy of hyper independence, hyper vigilance. Maybe you hold on to anger, resentment, all of these things. So by moving to another location in the world where Mars becomes more conscious in your chart, so as some more advanced students of astrology might know, there's certain parts of your chart, which is a circular form. There's certain parts of your chart that speak to where energies might be shadowed. And by moving to another location in the world or by traveling there for a certain period of time, you're actually able to bring this planet into the light, bring this planet's archetype, its energy, its lessons into your consciousness. And so by doing this, you can more actively be an active participant in working with this planet's energy so that you can bring to light its light expression. So, with Mars, it is about being in that healthy masculine energy, being courageous, having willpower, being able to take inspired action, being able to engage in necessary conflict, but do it because, at the end of the day, you really just want to be able to make sure that everyone is happy, that you can cooperate with other people, and not be kind of living from that hyper independence, that survival mode. So you don't necessarily need to be conscious of all of this for your soul to be drawn to another place on earth. And the reason this is a really interesting topic is because oftentimes our soul knows what its job is in its life. It knows what it needs to learn. It knows what it needs to do. And we might not be consciously aware of that. Oftentimes we're not. But your soul knows the energetic signature it needs to integrate, the energies it needs to learn about, and the energies it needs to bring to consciousness. And so your soul might actually have this deep, unexplained yearning, for example, to maybe live in a different country, to live in a certain area of the world, to travel there, to explore, to learn about that culture. And you might not have necessarily like an explanation of why you feel drawn to this place. You might have never even been there in your life. It might be something that comes from your childhood of like you just always felt a call to this place. You always felt curious about it. Or you might not have that necessarily that drive to be elsewhere, but you might feel like, well, the place where I'm at, or even maybe the place you were born at, or born in, is just not it for you long term, right? It just feels like maybe it feels transient. It feels like, okay, I need to be here right now, but I know this isn't where I want to be for the rest of my life. And so this is really your soul trying to get you to unearth some of this energy that's present in your birth chart that is maybe living in your subconscious. And by you moving to another location, whether that is like for, several years at a time, for some months at a time, or even just like a temporary, trip, your soul is able to experience this energy in a different way. And so this helps you understand and integrate and live that archetype that your soul wants you to learn about. The other way that we get to do this also is by experiencing the planets moving through the sky right now, even if we are in one static location. These are called transits. So, the sky is always moving around, or the planets are always moving around us in the sky. And as they do this, they will trigger different parts of our chart. And we will all feel this energy differently. And so sometimes, though, this isn't enough because you need to be able to unearth this energy in a new way, think of it as an up leveling, an additional layer to those transits. It's something that can only be done through relocation, because in a way it evolves your chart. It evolves for those of you that might be more advanced in astrology, it essentially evolves where the planets land on the 4 angles of your chart. So the ascendant, descendant, nadir, and midheaven. So one of the things I really wanted to share with you about, how powerful this draw really can be and this energy can really be is 2 of my own personal stories and experiences with astrocartography. So I've always been someone so first of all, for some background, I was born in Bosnia. I lived in Serbia until I was 10, and then my family and I moved to Canada when I was 10, because, for a better life, economy there wasn't great, all of these things. So, of course, I've always been very grateful to be in Canada. I love lots of different things about Canada. And I know that this is where I needed to be and where I still need to be right now to integrate certain aspects of my own chart. But I've also felt that it's felt very transient for me at the same time. I've always felt called to go back to Europe, just to live somewhere near the sea, to live, somewhere where there's a lot more history in terms of like castles and things like that, just a more kind of romanticized life, I guess, right? So I, particularly since being quite young, was always drawn to the energy of the UK, and Spain, specifically the south of Spain. And so for me, I couldn't explain why. I mean, I thought, having grown up with Harry Potter and all of these things, I thought that's probably why I really like the UK, or just, feel drawn to there. But at the same time, there's just this calling that I couldn't really explain. And it wasn't until a few years ago I found out about astrocartography. And one of the biggest things for me initially, when I started just learning about my astrology in general, was the discovery of the lunar nodes in your own chart. So the lunar nodes are 2 nodes of the moon. They're always in opposing signs. Everyone has them in their own chart, and they symbolize the evolutionary journey that we are on in this life. And they also give us, a summary of kind of the past life energy that we've come into this world with. So the south node is the past lives. It's the energy we're comfortable with, but it's also where we might become a little stagnant. We actually need to leave our south node energy, not leave it behind entirely. We need to actually raise it to its highest vibration to integrate the gifts that we carry from that south node. And then we need to step towards our north node. This is where our spiritual evolution and our growth happens. So when I discovered my north node and south node, it really spoke deeply to me. I'm a south node in Leo and north node in Aquarius. My south node is in the 9th house. My north node is in the 3rd house. So I do have this deep wanderlust and this yearning, from the 9th house being like travel through the mind, and through also physical travel, exploration of different cultures, different belief systems, all of the things. I do have this deep like wanderlust within me, and this comfort that lies in foreign lands in some way. So there is this need to explore the world, right? But then to bring that home to sort of my community and disperse that knowledge in some way within community for the betterment of my community, for the betterment of humanity, in a lot of ways through that Aquarius North Node. But my North Node actually is in a difficult aspect to both my rising sign in Scorpio at the 29th degree. And so, there's constantly this tension there to really kind of move towards this North Node to spiritually expand and grow in this life. So when I looked up astrocartography and I found out that my North Node line actually runs right through the UK, the south of Spain, even like Norway and the Netherlands. And I was going through a very difficult time in my life at the time where I knew I didn't want to be in the job I was in. I felt really empty, and I just felt like I had signed my life away to other people, and I didn't even know what I wanted anymore, and I felt completely unfulfilled. I took this as a big sign to just go there. And at the time, I mean, I couldn't physically relocate there for a long period of time, but I knew that like going there for a week just wasn't going to be enough. So I went away for just over 2 months, and it was the one of the most transformative things I've done in my life, because what it allowed me to do is experience this energy of where my soul is being called to grow into in this life, over the course of this time. And what happens on your North Node line is, because the North Node is uncomfortable, it can be scary, it really allows you to step outside of that comfort zone to build that trust within. And for me specifically, the UK North Node line, because there are several North Node lines, because the lines will sort of rise and fall in different areas of the world. So you'll essentially have 4 different North Node lines, for example. You'll have 4 different moon lines, 4 different sun lines, et cetera, et cetera. So there will be a North Node line that says AC, ascendant. There's a North Node line that's falling right at the bottom of your chart on your IC or nadir. And so these are all kind of technical things you don't really need to dive into, but essentially the North Node line I went to was specifically related to like understanding how to integrate this energy within the self and really heal on a deep inner level. And so what it allowed me to do is really integrate the security within to understand where my soul wanted me to go. It showed me and it brought me people, this energy of these areas, brought me people that were living the type of life that I feel called to live, like more sustainable, living with less, being an active part of like community and helping make the world a better place. It brought me members of my own soul family that I'm confident I've known for many lifetimes, from all over the world. And it just allowed me to step into that zone of discomfort while building the security within, to know that I'm being supported, that I'm being held on that journey. So that's the North Node line, and you can read more about that on my website under the blog section. There is an article that I published all about that trip to Spain to do my yoga teacher training, and the south of the UK, specifically Cornwall area, because my North Node line runs right through there. I met some amazing energy healers, like I said, amazing lifelong friends. One of them I just connected with earlier this year, and reconnected with. She was visiting North America. And yeah, it's the other part of this that I really wanted to share with you on a more personal note is, the energy that I'm currently living under in astrocartography. So I'm someone who has my sun right next to my Mars placement in my chart. They're both in my 10th house in Virgo. And what I've come to really discover while living actually on my Sun and Mars line, here in Ontario, it runs right through Eastern Canada, is that I've actually been living for a large part of my life from this shadowed energy of Mars, living in this like wounded masculine energy, of yeah, just hyper independence, hyper vigilance, like feeling like I always have to be productive, feeling like I have to do all the things myself, just feeling like this like warrior, right? Like needing to like fight to survive almost. And this can happen if you have your sun right next to a planet in your chart. What can happen is the sun can actually sort of burn out that planet and it becomes quite sort of subconscious or buried within your subconscious. And what's interesting is that even though, like I mentioned, I've felt that where I am currently in the world is not where I'm meant to be forever. It's not where I've seen myself really kind of settling down and living the rest of my life. But at the same time, it's been a necessary part of my journey and still is, because I'm still learning to integrate this energy within myself, learning to balance the feminine and the masculine, learning to heal this wounded masculine energy that was modeled to me, growing up from society, through my upbringing, through all of the things. It's really interesting that, I've been kind of pulled to this area, and have ended up finding this work, 10th house career. And actually, the line that I live on currently is it's the Sun and the Mars line, but it's in my first house. It's on my ascendant sign. So this is what astrocartography does. It takes your chart and it sort of relocates it to the different angles. So it changes essentially the house placements of your chart. And what this really means is that, again, it's working with the different levels of these planets, these archetypes, and bringing them into different parts of your psyche, different parts of your life. So what happens for me right now is like I'm really learning to integrate this energy of two very masculine planets, right? The sun being your identity, like how you get energy, how you shine your light, and also Mars, that like really what in a way gives you courage, what gives you willpower, how can you take that action based on your intuition, how can you balance that masculine energy. That's something I'm really learning to integrate within my own identity, essentially, by living on this line. And it's really helping me step into like my life purpose, which is very much tied to the legacy that I'm building, the way that I contribute to society. And it's been an absolutely necessary part of this journey. But at the same time, I know that there's a calling for me to unearth different energies in my chart. Like I said, the North Node line is one of them. There's other places in the world that I feel very called to where I have different lines. And basically, by working with astrocartography in listening to, what our soul is speaking to us, and maybe and then understanding, what is it actually telling you need in your life, in this current moment, right? We can kind of consciously take that step. We don't have to wait for the stars to align, so to say, and the transits to actually, be favorable for us, or be, activating certain parts of our chart. But we can actually take that into our own hands when we feel the time is right and work consciously with that energy. So it's interesting because I've done astrocartography work with some of my clients, and I am launching official readings on July 12th. So I will be sending out an email. So get on the email list through the show notes if you want to be the first to know. There's only going to be limited spots for these readings available on July 12th and after that, until they book up. But as I've been working through astrocartography with my clients as well, it's interesting how their souls are specifically called to some of the energies that we're working with in their chart. And, the energies that are really prominent in their charts around their soul signature, what they're learning in this life, and what they're being asked to integrate. So it's a really powerful additional tool to understanding yourself on a deeper level and understanding what your soul is desiring, what it wants, how it needs to grow, and what it's asking you to integrate from your subconscious. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that I know I might have said some technical words that people who are newer to astrology might not fully understand, but I always love to add that additional layer for those of you that are a bit more advanced in your astrology knowledge. So if there's things that you're uncertain of what they mean, feel free to reach out. And if you're curious to learn more, feel free to reach out to me. Instagram's always the best option. You can also email me. My website is in the show notes. So just get in touch and ask all the questions. I'm always happy to answer. Otherwise, feel free to book an astrocartography reading with me. You'll get to pick up to four places that maybe you're interested in, or just leave it up to me and I can intuitively, speak to different energies that might be suitable for you, your soul fulfilling its purpose in this life. This is why I'm calling it a soul map reading. And the other thing I wanted to mention also is that, this energy really is, like I said, it can, or these teachings really can be for people that, feel like they are being called to a specific place. They maybe want to relocate somewhere and they're not really sure why. And they want to test out, like, what are the lessons going to be in that place for me? What am I going to learn? What am I going to integrate? What are the opportunities? You might be even just planning a vacation, and that's totally what astrocartography is great for as well. I would just say that astrocartography does work on a bit more of a longer term basis. So yes, you will be able to experience the energy of a place if you are going there on vacation. But at the same time, some of these energies do, like, for real changes to happen with astrocartography, it does need to be more of a longer stay. So that's why I said, I felt like when I originally went to the UK and Spain, I just felt like if I go there for like 2 weeks, this is not going to be enough, right? So just keep that in mind. And yeah, there's lots to uncover. There is literally a whole world to learn about here. And I just want you to remember that this is an add-on to your birth chart. It allows you to go deeper with your birth chart. So it's always great to have an initial reading done so we can really go in depth on your soul's purpose, your journey, all of those things. And then we can do astrocartography, but that's not to say that you can't dive right into astrocartography. It's going to be a really potent tool for you regardless. So feel free to get in touch. Let me know what you think about this episode. I'd love to hear from you, and feel free to share it with anyone that you think might be interested. Until next time, thank you for listening.